First quarter revenue decreased 3.4% sequentially in NT dollar, or 5.1% in US dollars, as our business was impacted by smartphone seasonality, partially offset by continued growth in AI-related demand. In spite of the January 21st earthquake and several aftershocks, we worked diligently to recover much of the lost production. Thus, our revenue in the first quarter was slightly above the midpoint of our guidance. Gross margin decreased 0.2 percentage points sequentially to 58.8%, primarily due to the earthquake impact as well as the start of overseas dilution, partially offset by the cost improvement efforts. Total operating expenses accounted for 10.2% of net revenue. Operating margin decreased 0.5 percentage points sequentially to 48.5%. Overall, our first quarter EPS was 13.94 NT and ROE was 32.7%. Now let's move on to revenue by technology. 3nm process technology contributed 22% of wafer revenue in the first quarter, while 5nm and 7nm accounted for 36% and 15% respectively. Advanced technologies, defined as 7nm and below, accounted for 73% of wafer revenue. Moving on to revenue contribution by platform. HPC increased 7% quarter over quarter to account for 59% of our first quarter revenue. Smartphone decreased 22% to account for 28%. IoT decreased 9% to account for 5%. Automotive increased 14% and accounted for 5%. And DCE increased 8% to account for 1%. Moving on to the balance sheet. We ended the first quarter with cash and marketable securities of 2.7 trillion NT, or $81 billion. On the liability side, current liabilities increased by 135 billion NT, quarter over quarter, mainly due to the increase of 111 billion in accrued liabilities and others. The increase in accrued liabilities and others was mainly due to the accrual of income tax payables. On financial ratios, accounts receivable turnover days increased 1 day to 28 days. Days of inventory increased 3 days to 83 days, primarily due to the ramping of new overseas fabs. Regarding cash flow and CAPEX, during the first quarter, we generated about 626 billion NT in cash from operations, spent 331 billion in CAPEX, and distributed 104 billion for second quarter 2024 cash dividend. In addition, we raised 16 billion NT in cash from bond issuances. Overall, our cash balance increased 267 billion NT to 2.4 trillion at the end of the quarter. In US dollar terms, our first quarter capital expenditures totaled 10.06 billion. I've finished my financial summary. Now let's turn to our current quarter guidance. Based on the current business outlook, we expect our second quarter revenue to be between 28.4 and 29.2 billion US dollars, which represents a 13% sequential increase or a 38% year-over-year increase at the midpoint. Based on the exchange rate assumption of $1 to 32.5 NT, gross margin is expected to be between 57 and 59%, operating margin between 47 and 49%. Also, in the second quarter, we will need to accrue the tax on the undistributed earnings, retained earnings. As a result, our second quarter tax rate will be around 20%. The tax rate will then fall back to 14 to 15% level in the third and fourth quarter and the full-year tax rate will be between 16% and 17%. This concludes my financial presentation. Now let me turn to our key messages. I will start by talking about our first quarter 25 and second quarter of 25 profitability. Compared to fourth quarter, our first quarter gross margin slightly decreased by 20 basis points sequentially to 58.8%. This was primarily due to 60 basis points impact from the January 21st earthquake and its aftershocks, as well as the start of dilution from our Kumamoto fab, partially offset by cost improvement efforts. We have just guided our second quarter gross margin to decrease by 80 basis points to 58% at the midpoint, primarily as the margin dilution impact from our Arizona fab starts to kick in. We expect the impact from overseas fab to grow more pronounced throughout the year as we ramp up further in Kumamoto and Arizona, and forecast 2 to 3% margin dilution impact for the full year 2025. As we have said before, under today's fragmented globalization environment, overseas fabs costs are higher for everyone, including TSMC and all other semiconductor manufacturers. With our additional $100 billion investment plan in Arizona, we forecast the gross margin dilution from the ramp-up of our overseas fabs in the next 5 years to start from 2 to 3% every year in the early stages and widen to 3 to 4% in the latter stages. We will leverage our increasing size in Arizona and work on our operations to improve the cost structure. We will also continue to work closely with our customers and suppliers to manage the impact. Overall, with our fundamental competitive advantages of manufacturing technology leadership and large-scale production base, we expect TSMC to be the most efficient and cost-effective manufacturer in the region that we operate. Thus, even considering our global manufacturing expansion plans, we believe a long-term gross margin of 53% and higher is achievable. Next, let me talk about our 2025 capital budget. At TSMC, a higher level of capital expenditures is always correlated with higher growth opportunities in the following years. We reiterate our 2025 capital budget is expected to be between $38 and $42 billion as we continue to invest to support customers' growth. About 70% of the capital budget will be allocated for advanced process technologies. About 10 to 20% will be spent for specialty technologies, and about 10 to 20% will be spent for advanced packaging, testing, mask making, and others. Our 2025 CAPEX also includes a small amount related to our recently announced additional $100 billion investment plan to expand our capacity in Arizona. Even as we invest for the future growth with this level of CAPEX spending in 2025, we remain committed to delivering profitable growth to our shareholders. We also remain committed to a sustainable and steadily increasing cash dividend per share on both an annual and quarterly basis. Now let me turn the microphone over to CC.
Thank you, Wendell. Good afternoon, everyone. First, let me start with our near-term demand outlook. But before that, I would like to mention the earthquake during Lunar New Year. On January 21st, Taiwan experienced a 6.4 magnitude earthquake on the Richter scale, followed by several significant aftershocks. Although a certain number of wafers in process were impacted and had to be scrapped, we worked tirelessly and were able to recover much of the lost production, demonstrating the resilience of our operation in Taiwan. I want to recognize and deeply thank all of our employees and our suppliers for their dedication and hard effort over the Lunar New Year holidays. I would also like to extend our great appreciation to our customers for their understanding and support during this time. Now, let me talk about the first quarter's result. We conclude our first quarter with revenue of US $25.5 billion. Our business in the first quarter was impacted by smartphone seasonality, partially offset by continued growth in AI-related demand. Moving into second quarter 2025, we expect our business to be supported by strong growth of our 3nm and 5nm technologies. Looking at the full year of 2025, we expect Foundry 2.0 industry growth to be supported by robust AI-related demand and a mild recovery in other end market segments. In January, we had forecast the Foundry 2.0 industry to grow 10 points year over year in 2025, which is consistent with IDC's forecast of 11% year-over-year growth for Foundry 2.0. Now, let me talk about the recent tariff. We understand there are uncertainties and risks from the potential impact of tariff policies. However, we have not seen any change in our customers' behavior so far. Therefore, we continue to expect our full year 2025 revenue to increase by close to mid-20% in US dollar terms. We might get a better picture in the next few months, and we will continue to closely monitor the potential impact to the end market demand and manage our business prudently. Amidst the uncertainties, we continue to focus on fundamentals of our business, which are technology leadership, manufacturing excellence, and customer trust, to further strengthen our competitive position. As such, we are confident TSMC can continue to outperform the Foundry 2.0 industry growth in 2025. Now I will talk about our AI demand outlook. We continue to observe robust AI-related demand from our customers throughout 2025. We reaffirm our revenue from AI accelerators to double in 2025. The AI accelerators we define as AI GPU, AI ASIC, and HBM controllers for AI training and inference in the data center. Based on our customers' strong demand, we are also working hard to double our CoWoS capacity in 2025 to support their needs. Recent developments are also positive to AI's long-term demand outlook. In our assessment, the impact from AI reasoning models, including DeepSeek, will drive greater efficiency and help lower the barrier to future AI development. This will lead to wider usage and greater adoption of AI models, which all require use of leading-edge silicon. Thus, these developments only serve to strengthen our conviction in the long-term growth opportunities from the industry megatrend of 5G, AI, and HPC. To address the structural increase in the long-term market demand profile, TSMC employs a disciplined and robust capacity planning system. This is especially important when we have such high forecasted demand from AI-related business. Externally, we work closely with our customers and our customers' customers to plan our capacity. Internally, our planning system involves multiple teams across several functions to assess and evaluate the market demand from both a top-down and bottom-up approach to determine the appropriate capacity to build. Based on our planning framework, we are confident that our revenue growth from AI accelerators will approach a mid-40s% CAGR for the next 5 years period starting from 2024. Next, let me talk about TSMC's additional US $100 billion investment plan to expand in Arizona. All our overseas decisions are based on our customers' need. They value some geographic flexibility and necessary level of government support. This is also to maximize the value for our shareholders. With the strong collaboration and support from our leading US customers and the US federal, state, and city governments, we recently announced our intention to invest an additional US $100 billion in advanced semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. This expansion includes plans for 3 additional wafer manufacturing fabs, 2 advanced packaging fabs, and a major R&D center. Combined with our previously announced plan to build 3 advanced semiconductor manufacturing fabs in Arizona, this brings our total investment in the US to US $165 billion to support the strong multi-year demand from our customers. Our first fab in Arizona has already successfully entered high-volume production in 4Q24, utilizing N4 process technology with a yield comparable to our fab in Taiwan. The construction of our second fab, which will utilize the 3nm process technology, is already complete, and we are working on speeding up the volume production schedule based on the strong AI-related demand from our customers. Our third and fourth fab will utilize N2 and A16 process technologies, and with the expectation of receiving all the necessary permits, are scheduled to begin construction later this year. Our fifth and sixth fab will use even more advanced technologies. The construction and ramp schedule for this fab will be based on our customers' demand. We also plan to build 2 new advanced packaging facilities and establish an R&D center in Arizona to complete the AI supply chain. Our expansion plan will enable TSMC to scale up to a gigafab cluster to support the needs of our leading-edge customers in smartphone, AI, and HPC applications. With this additional US $100 billion investment plan to expand our leading-edge capacity in Arizona, I would also like to mention that TSMC is not engaged in any discussion with other companies regarding any joint venture, technology licensing, or technology transfer and sharing. After completion, around 30% of our 2nm and more advanced capacity will be located in Arizona, creating an independent leading-edge semiconductor manufacturing cluster in the US. It will also create greater economies of scale and help foster a more complete semiconductor supply chain ecosystem in the US. Thus, TSMC will continue to play a critical and integral role in enabling our customers' success, while remaining a key partner and enabling all the strengths and leadership of the US semiconductor industry. Next, in Japan, thanks to the strong support from the Japan Central, Prefecture, and local government, our first specialty technology fab in Kumamoto has already started volume production in late 2024 with very good yield. The construction of our second specialty fab is scheduled to start later this year, subject to the readiness of the local infrastructure. In Europe, we have received strong commitment from the European Commission and the German federal, state, and city government, we are on track with our plan to build a specialty technology fab in Dresden, Germany. In Taiwan, with support from the Taiwan government, we plan to build 11 wafer manufacturing fab and 4 advanced packaging facility over the next several years. Volume production of N2 is expected to start in second half 2025, and we are preparing for multiple phases of 2nm fabs in both Hsinchu and the Kaohsiung science parks to support the strong structural demand from our customers. By expanding our global footprint while continuing investment in Taiwan, TSMC can continue to be the trusted technology and capacity provider of the global logic IC industry for years to come, while delivering profitable growth for our shareholders. Finally, I'll talk about our N2 status and A16 introduction. Our 2nm and A16 technology leads the industry in addressing the insatiable need for energy-efficient computing, and almost all the innovators are working with us. We expect the number of new tape-outs for 2nm technology in the first 2 years to be higher than both 3nm and 5nm in their first 2 years, fueled by both smartphone and HPC applications. N2 will deliver full node performance and power benefits with 10 to 15% speed improvement at the same power, or 20 to 30% power improvement at the same speed, and more than 15% chip density increase as compared with N3E. N2 is well on track for volume production in the second half of 2025 as scheduled, with a ramp profile similar to N3. With our strategy of continuous enhancement, we also introduced N2P as an extension of N2 family. N2P features further performance and power benefits on top of N2, and volume production is scheduled for second half 2026. We also introduced A16 featuring Super Power Rail, or SPR, as a separate offering. Compared with the N2P, A16 provides a further 8 to 10% speed improvement at the same power, or 15 to 20% power improvement at the same speed, and additional 7 to 10% chip density gain. A16 is best suited for specific HPC products with complex signal route and dense power delivery network. Volume production is scheduled for second half 2026. We believe N2, N2P, A16, and its derivatives will further extend our technology leadership position and enable TSMC to capture the growth opportunities well into the future. This concludes our key message, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, CC. This concludes our prepared statements. Before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to remind everybody to please limit your questions to 2 at a time to allow all the participants an opportunity to ask their questions. Should you wish to raise your question in Chinese, I will translate it to English before our management answers your question. For those of you on the call, if you would like to ask a question, please press the star then 1 on your telephone keypad now. If at any time you'd like to remove yourself from the questioning queue, please press star 2. Now let's begin the Q&A session. Operator, can we please proceed with the first caller on the line?
The first one to ask question, Gokul Hariharan from JPMorgan.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. And first of all, thanks for clearing the air on all those JV-related news reports. I think a lot of people needed that. Thank you. My first question is on AI demand. So CC, there has been a lot of talks about CoWoS order adjustments and some concerns about AI demand. You did talk about CoWoS capacity doubling. Could you talk a little bit about how you see demand versus supply? I think last time we talked about this, you did indicate CoWoS demand is still well above supply. Could you talk a little bit about how the situation is looking for CoWoS demand versus supply this year, and maybe a little bit of early color on 2026 also as you plan for the capacity?
All right, thank you, Gokul. For everyone's benefit, let me try to summarize your first question. So again, Gokul's first question is on the AI-related demand. He notes there's been a lot of noise around CoWoS and order cuts and such. So he would like to ask CC, what is the thinking or strategy for TSMC? CoWoS still doubling this year? Is the demand still exceeding the supply? And how is the CoWoS capacity and supply, or supply and demand, I should say, look like going into 26 if CC is able to provide any color?
Okay, Gokul. I know there's a lot of rumors about the CoWoS. The last time when we talked about the CoWoS, the demand is almost insane and much, much higher than we can prepare. And now it's a little bit better. I think still we need to build a lot of capacity to meet the demand. As I said, we have to double our CoWoS capacity. Still fully loaded. And for 2026, I cannot say the number, but it's still a healthy momentum will be continued. Okay, did that answer your question?
So do you still think 2026 is going to be supply limited still? That demand is still going to be much more than supply even in 2026? Is that your current expectation, CC?
So Gokul is asking, then do we still see demand exceeding supply for CoWoS in 2026?
Well, we will work very hard to make sure that we don't have this kind of demand is much, much higher than the capacity. We're working very hard, and I believe that it will be more balanced next year.
Thank you. My second question is on the U.S. investment and all this persistent rumors about involvement in your competitors' operations, etc. You have interacted with the U.S. government, the new administration for the last several months, and CC made the big announcement at the White House as well. Just wanted to understand what is TSMC's kind of impression in terms of what is required now that there is also the semiconductor tariff investigation going on. What is TSMC's impression of what is required over the next 2-3 years in terms of reshoring of capacity, both from a U.S. administration perspective, also from your U.S. customers' perspective? And I think Wendell also indicated that the margin dilution may be slightly bigger as we go along. So could you talk a little bit about how much of the value can you pass on to the customers as the expansion becomes a little bit more accelerated? Thank you.
Okay, so Gokul's second question is a bit involved, but he's asking about, again, a lot of talk about our recent announcement for an additional $100 billion expansion in the U.S. Again, talk about this involving a competitor. CC has been speaking to the U.S. government. There's still potential semiconductor tariff. So his question is really, from TSMC's point of view, what do we think is required for more onshoring in the U.S.? Can we share the perspective from the U.S. government, or more directly, what our customers are asking us to do in terms of reshoring? That's the first part. Then the second part will maybe Wendell can address on the margin.
Really? Okay. I thought that's a very long question. Let me answer that. Yes, we have talked with U.S. government officials, and the reason we are expanding in Arizona, actually, let me say again, it's all because of our customers' request. And that because of they have very high demands. I announced it in other occasions, say that very strong AI demand from US customers such as Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, and Broadcom. And so that we need to expand our capacity in the US and to support them. We talked with the US government and to ask for their help in getting the necessary permits so we can start the fab. And as a result, I would expect our 2 nanometers capacity, around 30% will be in Arizona. And that will be also an independent leading-edge semiconductor manufacturing cluster. Okay?
And then, Gokul, the second part of your question is related to then, Wendell had mentioned that the margin may widen. So Gokul's second part of the question, I think, was related to pricing. And what is our strategy or approach here as we expand overseas? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, Gokul, you're asking about the pricing. As we always said, reflecting our value is a continuous and ongoing process for TSMC, as we're in a very capital-intensive business. So we need to have a very high gross margin to earn the sustainable and healthy return. And that is why we set up our pricing strategy. Geographic manufacturing flexibility is an important part of our value proposition to the customers. We are already discussing this with our major customers, and the progress is so far so good.
Okay, Gokul?
Okay, understood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Operator, can we move on to the next participant, please?
The next to ask question, Bruce Lu from Goldman Sachs. Please ask your question.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. I think the geopolitical risk, micro concerns, is one of the major uncertainty nowadays. The last 2 days we have H20 being banned in China, blah, blah, blah. So how does that impact to TSMC forecast and production planning, right? Do we have enough other customer and demand to keep our advanced node capacity fully utilized? Or how does that change our long-term production planning moving forward?
Okay, Bruce, thank you. Your first question is related, he's talking about geopolitical risk, or I guess some of the recent rules and announcements, specifically the ban on H20. So his question is, how does this impact TSMC's business? How does this impact our capacity planning and our strategies?
Bruce, let me answer this question. Of course, we do not comment on specific customers' product, but let me assure you that we have taken this into consideration when providing our 4 years growth outlook. Did I answer the question?
Yes, but I want a little bit more about I'm sure you guys did a lot of sensitivity analysis, like what kind of impact it's gonna be, or can you share with how much buffer we got? Like you assume, how comfortable we have to maintain our current capacity planning moving forward, or current utilization rate, though.
Okay, so Bruce is asking for some more color in terms of what type of buffer or what type of room we have in making our decisions for the long-term capacity planning.
Well, actually, we know a lot of people right now speculate a lot of things. But again, we are mindful of the potential impact from all the recent tariff announcements, especially the potential impact to the end market demand. We'll continue to watch it carefully. Having said that, we have not seen any change in our customers' behavior so far. And so we stick on our forecast.
I see. Thank you. Let me switch gear to a little bit for the non-U.S. capacity expansion. I think yes, as we understand that the current capacity utilization for mature node is underutilized, right? Do we consider to slow down the capacity expansion in Japan or Europe, or just relocate the current equipment from Taiwan to Japan or Europe instead of building the new one? We don't want. Why do we want to expand the capacity for the mature node, which management already mentioned that it's an oversupply industry, though. If we relocate them, we can squeeze more space, clean room in Taiwan for more advanced node.
Okay, so Bruce's second question is around mature node and our expansion into Europe and Japan. His question really is, given that the capacity of mature node and 7 nanometer are underutilized, number one, are we considering to slow down our expansions in these places? And then number two, would we consider using current relocate equipment from Taiwan to overseas rather than just the pure new expansion or greenfield expansion?
Bruce, let me answer the first part of the question. Are we considering slowing down? The answer is no. We execute our plan as scheduled. The reason is very simple, because of this kind of mature node is a specialty technologies demand, which my competitor did not have a capacity or capability to support. So it's kind of free from you mentioned the underloading of the mature node. And so, again, I would emphasize, no, we are not going to slow down our plan in Japan or in Germany. The second question is how to do it. You have a good idea, but is TSMC the confidential information? I'll let you know later.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Operator, can we move on to the next participant, please?
Now the line is open to Charlie Chan, Morgan Stanley.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my question. So my first question is really very specific on the semiconductor tariff on either Taiwan or TSMC's leading edge. So I'm wondering, first of all, does the TSMC get involved in all those tariff negotiations between Taiwan government and the U.S. government? And secondly, do you believe that your commitment of $165 billion investments can get a spare on this semiconductor tariff? Because in your previous comment, you seem to only concerned about the tariff impact on consumer tech demand. But I think global investors are also very concerned about additional tariff on this semiconductor category. Can you give us some color? Thank you.
Okay, let me summarize your question. First question, Charlie. So Charlie's first question is on semiconductor tariffs. He wants to know what is our comment or view on potential tariffs on Taiwan, reciprocal tariffs, or semiconductor-specific tariffs. His question specifically is TSMC get involved in the negotiations between the Taiwan government and the U.S. government?
Charlie, this kind of tariff discussion is between countries. We are a private company. Certainly, no, we are not getting involved. What is the second question?
Okay. Yeah, so actually, do you have any visibility that the semiconductor-specific tariff can be exempt?
So Charlie is saying... Sorry, Charlie, I think your question was with our total investment of $165 billion in Arizona, does TSMC believe semiconductors will be exempt from these tariffs?
Yes. Yes.
Charlie, all policy, especially this tariff decision, are government's responsibility to decide. And as a private company, we are fully respectful of this, but we are not getting involved.
Okay, got you. I think you're too moderate, but let's move on to my second question. So, based on your second quarter guidance, which is very strong, up 13% quarter on quarter, I can't help to think whether there are customers pulling given the tariff, or is there kind of really demand? And also based on your full year guidance, so-called mid 20%, it seems like second half recovery will be very, very gradual or flattish. So I'm wondering if you already bake in those kind of consumer tech demand impact, and if a tariff have some kind of turnaround, right? Meaning some exemption on, for example, major smartphone brands, whether there's a chance for you to revise up your full year revenue guidance. Thank you.
Okay, so Charlie's second question is on the revenue outlook. His first part is on the second quarter. He notes second quarter 13% at the midpoint in US dollar terms, Q on Q is very strong. So he wonders, is this, are we seeing already some tariff pulling impact, or is this part of that guidance? I'll stop here first.
Yeah, Charlie, we have, as we said in the prepared remarks, we haven't seen any changes in customers' behavior so far. Our second quarter growth is driven mainly by strong demand for the 3 nanometer and 5 nanometer technologies, underpinned by the growth in our HPC platform. As I said, we haven't seen observe any changes in customer behavior in terms of pooling or due to tariffs. It's probably better to ask them directly.
And the second part, then Charlie is asking about with the second quarter guidance implies limited half-on-half growth. So is that also because we are assuming something from a tariff impact to consumer demand, or why is that?
Charlie, as we also said in the prepared remarks, there are uncertainties and potential risks from tariffs exist. So far, that's what we are able to share with you is we stick to the mid-20 or close to mid-20% year-over-year growth, no different from the previous quarter.
I see. So I think that's really what we want. But I think your answer to Gokul's previous question on long-term margin dilution was a little bit unclear because we thought that the 2 to 3% margin dilution from overseas theft should remain to be the case, but it seems like it's widening. So I'm not sure if it is because you are further accelerating your US fab expansion, or some cost item or pricing item are not in your expectations versus maybe 1 or 2 months ago.
Okay, I think so. Charlie is asking basically how come the dilution in the latter period widens to 3 to 4%? What are the drivers or reasons behind it?
Yeah, Charlie, the widening of dilution on the gross margin in the later part of the 5-year period is mainly from inflation in cost and also potential tariff-related cost increases. Those are the reasons.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Okay, operator, let's move on to the next participant, please.
Next one, Charles Shi from NICAM. Go ahead, please.
Thanks for taking my questions. Maybe I'll ask a relatively higher level question. It's a 2-part question. Both are regarding your expansion plan in the United States. I think management, another occasion said what TSMC wants the most is really fairness. Nothing monetary, nothing about tariffs, but fairness. Can management kind of elaborate a little bit what fairness means. Give us a little bit more specifics. But the other part of the question regarding the U.S. expansion is about the R&D team center you announced. So we understand, yes, the TSMC's R&D in the U.S. Does need to start from somewhere, right? You said it's more about the production improvements related to R&D on derivative nodes. But since this seems to be something U.S. really cares about, that the R&D capability on the U.S. soil, on the leading edge, is there any longer-term plan to have the U.S. R&D center to be involved, let's say in the primary R&D, let's say brand new processes, the major nodes development? That's my two-part question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Charles. So again, to summarize, both questions are related to the expansion in the U.S. So first part of the question is CC has mentioned all we want is fair treatment. So what do we mean by fair or fairness?
Well, let me answer this question. What we mean the fair treatment is very simple. If anybody get the subsidy or get the incentive, it should be everybody should get the same. Either we got all or we got zero. All right. So that's what we call it fair. So again, I would like to assure you that will be very competitive in either conditions.
Okay. And then the second part of the question is regarding the R&D. Charles is saying he understands the R&D needs to start from somewhere, but with our major R&D center in Arizona, what will be the purpose or the focus, and will it be involved at some point in ramping new technologies?
Oh, as I said before, TSMC's fab, never be stay stagnant. We always continue to improve it. And we need to establish a major R&D center in Arizona with about 1,000 engineers. That's a big amount. But the focus will be support our manufacturing cluster, improve its technology, and allow it to operate independently. Okay? Did I answer the question?
Maybe let me just really follow up, because there has been a good amount of chatters about the U.S. R&D center more supporting manufacturing rather than doing major R&D on the brand new nodes. But looks like that's not the plan. But over the longer term, is there any thoughts of our management? Maybe they will get involved in brand new nodes development one way or the other. I think that's a question people have been discussed about over the last quarter.
Okay, so Charles, so Charles is asking, will the R&D center over the mid to long term, can it also focus on things like new node development or pathfinding opportunities, long-term research, these type of things?
Okay, actually, the first purpose is to that Arizona's fab can operate independently. But of course, we have done, and we are doing it right now. We do some kind of pathfinding, exploratory work, and cooperate with university, blah, blah, blah. It actually a lot of activities. 1,000 engineers is not a small amount. Of course, it's not comparable to TSMC's right now. It's 10,000 R&D people, but it's a beginning. Okay, so we do a lot more.
Okay, Charles, do you have a second question?
Thank you, CC.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Operator, the next participant, please.
Next one to ask questions, Sunny Lin from UBS.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking my questions. So my first question is to follow up on the Arizona expansions. So first part is on the timeline or the pace of your expansions, now given the stronger demand for your U.S. capacities, to what extent could you pull in the rep of the original second and third phase? And for your fourth phase, you earlier mentioned that you will be constructing the fab shell later this year. So will it be possible that you start to rep the fourth phase at the same time as the third phase?
Okay, so Sunny's first question is regarding our GigaFab cluster in Arizona. She wants to understand the timeline of expansion, particularly given the strong AI-related demand. Can we pull in the timing for both the second fab and the third fab? And also, can we, at the same time, start the production of the third and fourth fab simultaneously?
Well, Sunny, we are working very hard to speed it up of our production in the second fab and the construction of the third fab. All I can say now is customers' demand is strong. We have to really to speed it up. And the following all the fab definitely will depend on our customers' demand, of course.
Okay, Sunny?
Well, so sorry, just to clarify, so the second phase originally is planning for production in 2028. So now should we assume it to be from maybe mid-2027 or even first half of 2027? And for the third phase, since you are building the fab shell this year, so will the production start maybe 1 year ahead versus the original timeline of 2030?
Okay, so Sunny, specifically, so the second one, we said we're speeding up. Can we give some context of a time frame? And then for the third fab, will we also speed it up? Could that also be moved forward?
Okay, yes, we are speeding it up. How fast? The second fab, as you said, it should be pulled in. And this one, we are working hard to pull in at least a couple of quarters. That's at least. On the third fab, actually, I did not speak the whole thing. It's also being constrained by the labor shortage of Arizona, and we need to get all the permits, everything, etc. So I cannot give you a very definite date yet, but we are going to update you probably in the next quarter or 1 quarter after that.
Got it, no problem. My second question is on the pricing and margin of the overseas expansions. And so now with the especially stronger demand for the U.S. capacities, would you be able to sell more value given the stronger onshoring requirements? And then for margin, earlier you mentioned the 2 to 3% margin dilutions for the coming 2-3 years, and then expanding to 3 to 4%, maybe into 2029 to 2030. I just wondered what's the underlying weather price assumption for that gross margin dilution estimate. If you are able to raise the AZ pricing a bit, will the gross margin dilution could be less?
Okay, so Sunny's question is on the overseas expansion in both pricing and margin. Given the strong demand in terms of pricing, can we reflect even greater value to our customers? And therefore, and also her question is, given that the dilution from overseas will widen to 3 to 4% in the latter stages of the 5-year period, she wants to know what is our underlying wafer price assumption behind this.
Sunny, let me answer that. These two things are actually go together. As we said, reflecting our value is a continuous and ongoing process, and because of our business nature, we need very high gross margin to earn a sustainable, healthy return. Now, geographic manufacturing flexibility is an important part of our value proposition to the customers. Therefore, we are already discussing this with our major customers, and the progress is so far so good. Okay? Now, at the same time, the margin dilution from the overseas fabs, the additional dilutions come from the cost inflation as well as potential cost increases from the tariff policies. Of course, with that, we also want to reflect the value, and therefore the discussion with the customers are in continuous.
Okay, Sunny?
Got it.
All right.
All right, very clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Operator, can we move on to the next participant, please?
Next one to ask questions, Brett Simpson, Arete.
Yeah, thanks very much. I have a two-part question on this year's guidance for CC. First, CC, you mentioned that AI is still expected to double this year, despite the U.S. ban on AI GPUs into China. And I guess China was a meaningful portion of accelerator shipments, well over 10% of volumes. So factoring this in, it would imply your AI outlook this year, still doubling, would mean that the AI orders have improved meaningfully outside of China in the last sort of 3 months. Is that how we should interpret your comment about you still expect the business to double? And then second, we're in a June quarter where tariffs have been paused for 90 days. So to what extent does your above seasonal June quarter guidance reflect customer pull-ins ahead of potential tariffs being applied in the September quarter? Thank you.
Okay, so Brett, his question is on, again, the one part is on the AI demand that although there's a ban in China on certain AI chips or products, that we reiterated our AI accelerator growth will double this year. So his assumption is that implies a strong non-China AI related demand, and wondering what is the mechanics, or can we comment behind that?
Brett, 3 months ago, now I can tell you that 3 months ago, we just cannot supply enough wafer to our customer. And now it's a little bit balanced, but still the demand is very strong. And you are right, other than China, the demand is still very strong, especially in US. And so we are confident that we are going to double our AI's revenue this year.
Yeah, and then very quickly, he was asking about the second quarter revenue guidance, and do we see any tariff-related pull-in? I think Wendell answered this earlier.
Yeah, I think that we have, as CC said in his prepared remarks, we haven't seen any changes in customer behavior. The growth in second quarter was primarily due to the demand from our 3 nanometer and 5 nanometer technologies, underpinned by the demand from the HPC platform.
Okay, do you have a second question, Brad? Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. My second question was for Wendell, and thanks for clarifying that, Wendell. Follow-up is on shareholder returns. And TSMC traditionally has always favored growing the dividends as the main policy, but many shareholders would argue that the dividend payouts are not having that much of an impact on the discounted multiple that TSMC trades at versus some of your US big tech peers. So my question is, why does TSMC management not adopt a buyback framework, particularly with the strength of the cash position on your balance sheet at the moment? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brett. So Brett's second question is circulated on shareholder return. He notes TSMC's policy has always been a stable and steadily increasing cash dividend and focus on cash dividend payout. His question, is why do we not consider adopting more of a buyback policy, share buyback policy?
Okay, Brett. We've done studies long time ago, and we continue to revisit that. We also talk to investors. Our conclusion stays the same. The sustainable and steadily increasing dividends is a better way of returning cash to the shareholders. So we're maintaining the policy.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Operator, in the interest of time, can we take the questions from the last two participants, please?
Yes. Now the line is open to Laura Chen, Citi.
Hello. Hi. Thank you very much for taking my question. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My question is also about the AI and also the U.S. expansion. CC, you just mentioned that the CoWoS supply demand will be more balanced into 2026. Do you see any structural change in the future AI chip design when moving to N3, such as like a chiplet, that kind of a design? And also in that kind of a new trend, what TSMC's view on the new technologies such as CPO or PLP panel base? Will that still start from Taiwan first, or you would also consider to further invest the new like a back-end technology in Arizona? Since CC, you just mentioned that you would also start to build up the fab in advanced packaging in Arizona.
Okay,
that's my first
Laura's
question.
first question is a very broad question, but basically, if I just try to distill, she wants to know, do we see any changes in the chip design, particularly moving to chiplets with N3? Do we see this more and more? What about the role of things like co-packaged optics and panel-level packaging? And I think the essence of her question, will we continue to use our advanced packaging technologies like CoWoS or SOIC in Taiwan first, or is this also part of the plan for the expansion in Arizona?
That's a long question, but Laura, yes, our customers, they continue to using that TSMC's leading edge technology, and they also adopt the advanced packaging technologies more and more, and also more advanced, right? This year is probably most of CoWoS S, and then next year CoWoS Europe, and etc. And we can see that customers start to picking up the SOIC and the more advanced packaging technologies. As for the what we call is panel levels of packaging, we are aggressively developing it, and today is still is a feasibility study stage. Too early to say it will be in Taiwan or in US, but most likely it will be in Taiwan first. We ramp it up and then bring it to US.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very clear. And also my second question is also about the capacity allocation between Taiwan and also Arizona. CC, you just shared with us that for about like 30% of N2 capacity will be in Arizona. We know it will be starting from when or what kind of a time frame you are looking for. Can we also assume that the same scale, like 30% of your Arizona fab for the advanced node in the longer term?
Okay, so Laura's second question is about the capacity allocation between how do we allocate between Taiwan and the US? Maybe, is it duplicative or extra capacity? And then very specific, CC had mentioned that N2 and more advanced capacity, 30%, around 30% will be in Arizona once we scale up to the cluster. Will that be kind of the percentage for the leading node in the future?
Well, we have right now we plan a 6 fab in Arizona, and in that 6 fab, the 2 nanometer will be a major node, and that's what I say 30% will be there. As time goes by, after the 2 nanometer will be 1.4 and 1.0. That has not been discussed yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very clear.
All right, thanks, Laura. Operator, can we take the last questions from the last participant, please?
The last one to ask questions, Chris Sankar, Cowen. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking my question. My first one is, it's very impressive given uncertainty, you're still maintaining full year revenue guidance and also your N2 capacity plan for this year and next year. Kind of curious, what is your visibility on second half revenues and also N2 demand for wafers into next year? And then I have a follow-up.
Okay, so Chris's first question is sort of in the near term, what is our visibility into the second half business outlook? And then also, how do we see the demand for N2 progressing this year and also next year?
Okay, let me talk about the first one. We're only at second quarters, so I think it's too early to talk about the second half. We did mention that the uncertainties and risks from tariffs exist, and we might get a better picture in the next few months. So we can probably update you in the next earnings call.
And then the second part of it is on the demand visibility of our 2 nanometer.
So far, actually, so far is very strong. As we said, all the new tape out customers, the number of the tape outs is exceeding that what we expected. And as we said, is the number of the new tape outs is much higher than the 3 nanometer and 5 nanometer in the same period of time.
Okay, and did you have a second question, Krish?
Got it. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff. Yeah, just one quick follow-up. You spoke about the Japan fab. I'm curious, what is the capacity installed in Japan today, and how do you think about the revenue contribution this year from Japan?
Oh, okay. Krish's second question is related to our first specialty technology fab in Japan. He wants to know what is the capacity installment for this specialty technology fab and also the revenue contribution from JASM.
Yeah, the capacity for the fab will be 40K when it's ramp up. The revenue for this year compared to the whole company is really not significant at this moment.
第一件事情我们可以看到营收减少。那营收减少，他说过是智慧型手机淡季，但部分被 AI 需求持续成长所抵消。那这个部分呢，它这个减少 3.4% 这 OK 了，这个没有问题的。那我要跟大家谈一件事，从这句话我去展开去查到知道，确实智慧型手机不断下降。前天在彭博，所有当场是谁来呢？当场是所有的，不要讲所有，很多的供应链在现场，很多的分析师在现场，所以供应链坐下来讨论说他们遇到什么问题。那我在旁边就在观察供应链遇到的实际问题是什么。实际上，确实智慧型手机不会只有这一季受到影响，接下来每一季都会受到影响，一定会。但 AI 需求不影响，因为无论关税条 5%、10%、15%， 能够被关税打3巴掌还能活得好好的，就只有 AI。同时，这个魏哲家，我觉得他的公关能力变得非常好。他的这句话我也很喜欢。尽管1月21发生地震跟余震，台积电呢第一季的营收还是略高于预期，这就是黄仁勋巨星。大家有印象吗？有印象吗？按3哦。什么坏事黄仁勋都可以说成好事啊！你们供应链的问题，你可不可以告诉我出在哪里？黄仁勋的说法会是，我承认历史上每一次遇到问题的时候，我们都受到很大的挑战，但是我们还是优于预期，这就是他的巨星嘛，所以蛮厉害的。魏哲家不一样咯。再来这句话很重要，海外扩厂的初期的稀释效应，部分被成本改善措施所抵消。你看第一季度毛利下降2个百分点，那我就问大家一件事，今天法说会我们平心而论，不要被我影响，今天法说会结束，你对海外扩厂这件事情是比较抱持负面看法的，帮我按4，那你是其实挺正面的，帮我按5。当然你可以完全是中性，没有好或不好，你帮我按6。这个是负面的按4啦。 正面的按5，那没什么看法按6。那我等一下要讲的就是这个部分，再来台积电这个黑字的部分呢，我简单带过就是说这个营运成本还是控制的非常好。那当然因为毛利有下降嘛，所以这个营业利益率啊、股东报酬率啊都有变化哦。很多人觉得是正面哦，目前只有一位战友是觉得是负面的。再来3奈米、5奈米、7奈米的结构变了，很奇怪。本来3奈米的收入占 24%， 5奈米占 34%， 7奈米占 14%， 结果这一次的法说会呢，竟然是5奈米跟7奈米的营收比重提高，而3奈米的营收比重稍微下降了。理论上台积电过去呢一直是越这个怎么讲，越小的奈米呢，它成长速度是增快的。这一次它虽然讲没变，但是我觉得结构上有变化。那我怀疑是熊本厂，还有他去日本、欧洲跟这个在美国这个 Arizona 的这个地方新设厂的这个营业数还没跑起来。那所以如果跑起来，有可能3奈米会冲得更高。这个是我目前知道的资料，应该长这样。那刚刚说 AI 相关嘛，所以你看HPC 是完全成长的。那 HPC 是完全成长的，汽车是完全成长的，所以HPC 是硬体还是软体？各位 ，HPC 是硬体还是软体？硬体吧。汽车是硬体还是软体？硬体吧。数位型消费电子性产品，硬体还是软体？硬体吧。各位，我跟你说，从我整个产业链看起来，从台积电的财报看来，我可以告诉你一件事：硬体现在的 AI 的发展是趋向于硬体，而不是软体。我们前一阵子都讲 AI 应用，对不对？这一阵子会趋向 AI 硬体。因为软体的部分现在在一个畸变 ，DeepSeek 加入之后出现一个畸变，所以从这边看起来是软体。然后这句话红字我画出来给大家看哦。台积电有没有钱？它现在现金和有价证券有 2.7 兆台币耶。好，那我整个报告详细报告只有这一句话，我把它画了一个斜线，大家猜看为什么？大家猜看为什么？你觉得我要强调的是什么？好，你觉得我要强调的是台积电不懂得花钱，很保守，所以会度过难关的。不是不懂得花钱，台积电很保守，所以会度过难关的，帮我按9。那你觉得我要表达的是，他就算在墨西哥、台湾、泰国，他心情不好，他想要在印尼、雅加达、冰岛、南极设一个厂，我问大家，他的营收跟他现在有的现金，他为了去抵抗地缘政治的不确定性，到处设厂，这种安全牌占他的现金非常少。我其实要讲的是这个，各位，你从一个公司运营的角度来看我今天投资这个，我今天投资这里，我今天投资那里，我在每个地方都布局，我真的是每个地方都要产能100%扩充吗？未必，这是买保险的时刻。那目前你可以看到它这个应收账款提高，存货周转天数的提高，它的说法是海外新厂的产能提升，没有错然后再来，它的资本支出到了3311亿去年的资本支出呢，大概快1兆，今年第一季的资本支出就3000多亿，所以投资额往上提升，超级往上提升，一直在冲。那就没什么好讲。然后他说第二季是更好的，那这边呢大家都看过了，我就不讲了。毛利也很好，营收也很好，等等等的。再来这个目前的重点讯息是什么？第一季度的毛利会下降，反正就是你看熊本厂的初期稀释效应。所以我跟大家讲一件事，盖厂初期一定会稀释。第一个，我要把东西搬过去；第二，我要把人搬过去；第三，当地的人水土不服，我们大台积电的文化也要稀释下去。因为你知道大台积电是一个文化非常林立的公司吗？我不晓得你有没有这样理解台积电不是一个很好待的地方，不好待压力很大很疯狂很多人撑个3-4年，你觉得他赚很多钱，他其实就想回家，他不要赚这个钱。有听过跟监狱一样，你说的有点道理我 我跟你说，我的同事，我应该不是我同事啊，我的朋友有待到台积电的，我大概15年前哦，我说哇，你薪水真的很高诶，很强诶，告诉你，他都觉得他自己快没命了，他真的要走了，我不知道怎么形容哦。所以台湾人都喊没命，美国人会怎么样？这我不知道，所以这个东西一定会稀释它的成本。可是这一次，我们再往下看哦。所以目前哦，他这边有个重点说，你看哦，这句话，但是他魏哲家有说一句话哦，在全球化的情况下，包括台积电在内的所有半导体制造商成本都很高。所有，我台积电成本高，Intel 成本高 ，AMD 成本高，我意思说所有的人成本都高，但是我最厉害。再来，未来5年的毛利会有每年2%到3%的稀释。再过5年，毛利会扩大到3%到4%的稀释，台积电的毛利越来越少，被扣的越来越凶。可是你觉得毛利被扣的越来越凶这件事情是纯粹的坏事还是不一定？觉得是纯粹的坏事的帮我按0，觉得不一定的帮我按1。刚刚投票的呢有 Who 跟 Mr. CZ， 或者是这个他觉得是一个利空。哦，我个人觉得是这样哦，它不纯粹是坏事，因为我把它当成保险费。各位，你保不保险？你保险吗？台积电保不保险？台积电保险吗？我用2%到5%之间的毛利，当做我们这个每个月营运公司的类似印花税或5%的这个营业税一样哦。很多我知道，但买保险，我觉得是没问题的。所以大家不要过度解读这件事情。同时，他知道美国人会水土不服，所以他也说了要努力改善营运的状况。还有呢，这边有一句话很重要，我把它点出来哦。这个公司也将这个继续客户和供应商紧密合作管理，就说他要这个紧密合作。好，那这边我也问了我的资源，然后有这个半导体的这个顾问，他是说说真的，台积电这一次要往这个 Arizona 等等地方去呢，台积电有一个文化，就是我一去就是要把聚落带去。我不是台积电一家公司去，我去我就有本事，我的上下游最紧密的那一群人，我就整个会搬过去。所以如果只有他用这一招的话，所以他有这个管理很重要。那我觉得他这一招一直用得很好哦。所以你看哦，大规模生产基地他是要这样干的，但是他觉得虽然是这样，所以毛利率他觉得没有问题，所以台积电还是觉得本身的毛利率是没有问题。资本支出就绑，然后再来他花了70%用在先进制程，接着就是你就可以当作是2奈米啊等等，你就这样想好了。然后那很厉害哦，那大部分呢台积电还是要在砸自己的怎么讲护城河。那整体来讲呢，关税问题每个人都有，领先的地位目前还是台积电，买保险的资金跟能够给出的条件也只有台积电，所以它现在还是全球遥遥领先的一个公司。会不会影响？当然会影响，影响的是供应链大乱，等一下跟大家讲。好，那他一直在讲他地震的问题啊。然后再来哦，他说尚未观察到客户行为有变化，近期的关税，台积电说目前确定有带来不确定性跟风险，但是尚未观察到客户行为变化，意思是什么呢？根据我们的调查这个因为仅此一家的货，就像 ASML， 各位有没有看到 ASML 财报？ ASML 财报虽然有点不如预期，但是大家还是只能跟他买东西。所以台积电的用户的客户行为还没有变化，所以就正如我讲的，他还是专注在技术领先，他克服不了关税。大家做半导体、做这个晶圆代工的这个相关的产业，站在原地，大家各被打一巴掌，但他还是技术领先，他还是大师兄。师父叫徒弟站好好的，每一个都打大师兄还是大师兄哦。OK， 然后再来就是我们刚刚说过，智慧型手机下降 ，AI 的营收在2025倍翻成长嘛。再来就是 CoWoS 产能增加1倍，各位很多人会担心这个封装的问题台湾的经济 CoWoS 跟这个台积电的设厂呢，其实我觉得台湾经济 这样看起来还是蛮好的，因为它要增加1倍。台湾它现在就算往这里，往日本、往德国等等，等一下会讲到，但是台湾的经济暂时还是没有什么大问题，对，被关税打，但没有什么太大的问题。那它一样嘛，台积电的说法是 DeepSeek 会把这个降低 AI 的门槛，所以每个人都用 AI 模型。再来这边有个数据给大家参考，我不晓得对不对因为他讲的话，我只是这个翻译给大家。来自 AI 加速器的营收会接近，成长率会到 40% 会接近 40% 中段， 45% 吗 ？Maybe。好，那就是这样子。然后再来这个目前呢 ，Arizona 是要用 N4 的制程技术，良率跟台湾的晶圆厂相当，我不确定我要再研究一下。你在美国的良率跟台湾一样吗？我觉得蛮奇怪的。好，再来台积电在 Arizona 是1000亿美元投资计划嘛，所以有这1000亿呢的计划有三座晶圆厂、2座先进封装跟1个这个研发中心，研发中心很重要。这1000亿美元可以做这么多事情，没错吧？那我刚刚说过台积电很有钱嘛，台积电很有钱嘛。那分散风险，然后这些东西又是有产能，又不是花掉，我觉得很 OK， 我觉得很 OK。但是你要小心其实这一点大家现场没有人问魏哲家，大家有后续追踪吗？他未来的投资在第三次呢，他 N2 跟 A16 的制程就是超高级的东西，他如果获得必要的许可，就今年开始建设。那这个东西如果我不晓得这个2奈米以下有多快，但这个东西出去，股市应该会震荡一阵子台积电卖台美积电等等，我是觉得是不会啦然后他自己也有强调，台积电不会被偷技术，不会被偷技术。然后这边比较麻烦的是，你看台积电有3成的2奈米会设在 Arizona， 大概有3成的2奈米会设在 Arizona， 那这个大家有没有疑虑啊？2奈米2奈米，大家有疑虑吗？这个会害怕吗？害怕按0，不害怕的按9那关于这点呢，我想跟大家讲一件事，我觉得重点是在后面他想要在美国创建一个独立的半导体制造集群，这是他今天讲的话，独立的半导体制造集群，这也将生产更大的规模经济，并促使美国更完整的半导体供应链生态系统。所以你有没有发现一件事？这个台积电其实是要把整群带过去啦，整群台积电影响力多大呢？大家知道嘉登嘛？嘉登公司好不好？挺好的。但是嘉登为什么可以上市？嘉登为什么可以在短短的几年内上市？这个邱先生这么有本事吗？邱先生非常了不起的一个人，非常苦干实干的一个人，他黑手出身，并且呢读书经营能力就非常好的一个人。可是我们不会因为这样就漠视是台积电在培养它的产业群的时候，他就是很快可以跟着他的这群人扶上 IPO。 我不晓得大家有没有注意到这种事情台湾这些半导体聚落呢，并不是大家各自打拼，哇，我上市柜，然后我们来合作。从一开始还没有 IPO 的时候，大家就混在一起了。我扶你，你上来，你要帮我。那我其实最怕，我是觉得应该说不要说最怕啦，这件事情反而是我们之后要去观察的。但是后面的世界怎么样不知道，不过这个也要很多很多年以后。然后再来我刚刚提到的日本、欧洲、台湾的扩厂计划，这个东西等看其实都有。台积电已经获得欧盟委员会，我猜大家不会注意到这个。各位今天有注意到这个欧盟委员会德国联邦的这条消息吗？有注意到的按一好不好？好，那很多人是觉得有点完蛋啦。刚刚我看很多人按0啦。那目前是这样子没有关系啦，反正在日本啦，在欧洲在台积电，在台湾，未来几年要建作11座晶圆制造厂跟4座封装厂，2奈米下半年开始量产，而且会在新竹跟高雄做准备。我跟你说景气还是好，炒地皮还是会炒， 我觉得这句话的重点在这里，有听懂啊？我猜的应该还是这样子，不是故意炒的，我没有负面的意思，但是呢，11座晶圆厂跟4座封装厂，虽然封装厂也没有多少人在那边上班啦，但是这样子的投资额还是挺大的哦。好，最后，刚刚提到了这个地域弹性，哦，其实很重要哦。30%的2纳米在 Arizona 形成半导体群，对，然后我后面帮大家提哦，毛利会扩大稀释哦，可是他认为是关税成本跟通膨，那当然啦，在美国的生活的这个物价啊，东西都很贵，所以通膨。可是我跟你说，我觉得是值得的。这个毛利虽然扩大到3到4%的稀释，但它毛利还在50%以上，有什么关系？没有错，这个 Vincent 其实没有错，他也是希望能够因为其实台积电的这个本身的这个资金大部分是来自于美国嘛，真正高阶的人才也是从美国来，所以无所谓哦。好，那我跟你说，今天呢，整个访谈哦，魏哲家的部分呢，大概是这样。我觉得我简单跟大家分析一下哦，这整件事情我们要关心的点是什么？是 AI 相关的应用锐不可挡。整个分析下来呢，有几个，第一个是它全球布局，大家第一个反应不要觉得它在卖台，也不要觉得技术会被偷，因为这是它必须做全球布局。而以它的资本额来讲，它做全球布局的买保险是一个非常聪明，而且对毛利的稀释在一个可接受的范围底下。那它接下来它除了这个布局之后呢，我也要跟大家去讲一件事，就是说我们这个它比较麻烦的是，它会把整个产业链去放到这个每个地方，这个是字看不到，智长吗？智长看不懂哦。好，再来哦。所以简单讲是这样。那目前大家要这个整群跟着他去美国呢，也还没那么快，大家还有一阵子。所以整体来说呢，我对这今天的法说会呢，我们很清楚看到，我觉得不如大家想的那么恐慌，不如这样。那因为 AI 的需求会增加，各位你 AI 你要做很多这个最后的需求哦，很多。例如为什么 AI 需求很大？为什么 HPC 是涨的？所以 AI 需求大，接下来还是边缘运算。其实从很多的条件来讲，还是边缘运算很好。除了边缘运算很好之外呢，目前最重要的就是你要投资硬体相关，要小心闪掉软体，因为我猜软体的这个变现能力，很多人说快到了，我也觉得很多快到了，像 ServiceNow 啊等等这个公司快到，但是就其他的东西就很难讲哦。那这个 Lucas 你说的也有道理，但是现在有一个重点是什么呢？重点是关税问题最后会怎么谈，不知道。现在其实是这样哦，就是说我那天去彭博的会议有一个很妙的状况呢，我说的保守一点，就说现场有很多的供应链，然后还有来自世界各国的分析师发表他的看法嘛，每一个人都不知道现在应该怎么办。那因为我们是做操盘的人，我的观点是因为这个谈判还没结束，所以你根本不知道会发生什么事。所以在不确定发生什么事的时候，川普任期是几年？4年嘛。我没有说后面的总统或者是第3任的川普不会延续他的策略，但无论如何，现在做分散风险是一个超级重要的动作，而现在的分散风险的动作是现在台积电保有龙头的不二法门。我们说晴天的时候就大力扩张，雨天的时候呢就打防守牌，这个防守牌是该打的，试问不该打嘛？所以简单来说，台积电的整个过程跟解析呢，大概是跟大家说到这里。那会不会停滞性通膨呢？我们等物价冲上来。确实最近有个数据哦，昨天还前天，美国的这个那个叫做什么销售零售上升1%，为什么？因为 消费意愿下降，但零售意愿下降，口嫌体正直，意愿下降，但买的东西变多了，因为大家都很怕物价会上涨，所以就先买先赢。那会不会在下个月呢被看到这个真相哦？好，我们来回答一下问题哦。我们回到我们交易闲聊的技术分析的部分哦。老师你好，我下跌时买入智邦455，获利15%，现在要加码还是减码？这是一个很典型的现在该问的问题，没有错。我们来看一下哦。455买在这里，现在应该加码还减码？各位，我跟你说，我没有什么好讲的，就是我不晓得你有没有看我们短影片啊，因为有时候我都会讲，像这一天4月16号的时候，或者是4月15号早上，各位你猜我会不会减码？猜我会的按3，不会的按4。坦白讲，这个喷出来我就直接减码。那我猜对的人，我知道我会怎么做的人很多啦。哦，这一区我会不会直接做减码？我会做减码，会。那我再偷偷问大家一件事，那跌下来今天4月17号，那我又会不会减码？我又会不会减码？哦，头像挡到了哦，这样 ，OK。大家猜哦，虽然这一天我会减码，那如果我忘了看盘，或我在睡觉，或者是我有事情，那到了今天这样我会不会减码？我会不会？哦，一样会的按3，不会的按4哦。那这边我们要厘清一个概念哦，我一定要等你们回答完我才要讲，不要被我影响哦。那我们核对一下我们彼此对交易的态度跟观点嘛吼。我要宣布答案了，大家跟大家想的不太一样。我会减码，我会，我真的会。为什么？因为我看的比较，因为我知道，因为你们讲完了，我就知道大家在想什么。各位有时候看我直播或在跟我想要学习交易的人呢，有时候会有一个我们之间有点误会，就是你把我看的这个周期看得太短了，我看的周期再长一点点，我不是那么短，不是说哇这一天大涨我就减码，这一天大涨我就减码，这一天大跌我就不太动。因为某种程度来讲，最近的波动率很大，所以不管是这边或这边都在同一区，都是连续喷出的一个位置，所以我不会去管那么细节。大家可以接受这个概念吗？可以接受按5，因为我实际上我猜你们隔着荧幕是可以接受的，但是我实际第一线的经验哦，我去跟大家讲说要卖的时候，他只要那个高点没卖到，隔天跌的时候，我跟他说其实这一区也可以卖。他就会觉得，那可是我昨天涨的时候没有卖，我今天跌的时候为什么要卖？我觉得很奇怪。可是我要怎么去说服他说，我们在做交易的人，你要看的是这一区。我们先看黄金，先看 VIX， 后看波动率，然后把你的区段拉大。你一定会有一种情绪哦，就是那我昨天要卖就没卖到，那我今天为什么要卖？感觉很差啊，对不对？哦，不用管感觉。那我再考大家一个问题哦，换股怎么操作？换股，你要换到强势股，对不对？那不管今天涨还跌，今天跌好了 ，A 股票烂股票定赢，好不好？假设啦，你有定赢的，很抱歉哦，我只是随便举例哦。假设定赢是烂股票，假设这个联发科是好股票，今天大盘下跌，定赢是跌的，联发科是涨的。那你要把烂股票换到好股票，我讲起来你很轻松，但实际上你做得到吗？情绪上是，那我不是追涨了吗？老师，你不是说我们要买绿不买红吗？你是追涨吗？哦，对不起，我要换就棒一下就换过去了。进场是买绿不买红，大买绿小买红啦，应该这样讲。换股是时机，我赌的是这一刻它是强势，所以如果明天继续跌，烂股还会跌得比好股还要再凶一点点。如果涨，因为今天强势，所以烂股上来的速度可能跟强势的差不多，或者是强势比较好，所以这已经纯粹到了机会成本的考量，而不是买红买绿的问题。 理解的帮我按7，因为很难跟人家解释一区的概念跟这个换股的概念，那大家理解大家这理解整件事了那我最后再问大家怎么去看这整件事，因为你们都有看讨论，都有看理解，你觉得川普的这个来回动荡会这个让经济怎么样吗？会让经济你认为2025是不好的，我们按0，你觉得2025整年其实没有那么差的，帮我按6。那不管大家心目中的不好跟好是什么，我要提醒大家，10%的关税还是关税，就算多课3%也都是钱所以但是你不要过度看坏市场，因为不管发生什么坏事，价格够便宜，估值重新计算，那就可能是买点。价格是虚幻的，价格是买未来，所以你要买的是未来好或坏。那我们准备要休息一下，等一下会员直播我会跟大家从我知道的产业结构，包含台湾的供应链，包含 DeepSeek 的影响，包含中国的 AI 发展，包含美国这整个 AI 产业的这个需求，包含 ASIC 晶片又要强势复出，传统的 AI 晶片可能又要稍微暂停的部分跟大家说明。那我们休息一下，先休息一下晚安。